Residents, Singaporeans, friends and family. I'm very glad to be here. Very nervous because this is my first time addressing such a big crowd, but very glad to be here. Because we want to tell you what we are about, what I am about, and what SPP is about. Many people have come up to me in our walkabouts to ask me, you were a former recipient of a scholarship, you've worked in the public service, why are you standing for the opposition? It's a very simple reason actually, and I thank the government, not the PAP, but the government. I think we have to make that distinction. But I thank the government for educating me, for giving me a good solid 8 years of work experience in the Ministry of Defence and the STA. And in my experience, there is one thing that came true. I started my career as a project manager, procurement officer. We procured services for Ministry of Defence, large contracts. And the very first lesson I learned that my boss, Mr. Tuan, taught me in DSTA is this: always have an alternative. Everyone in the government, in the public service, in any large corporation knows this. Even if you have one supplier, one vendor who gives you the best service, and the next guy is far behind, you always feed the next guy. Why? Because one day, the big guy will play punk with you, and you'll need the small guy to take over. It's a simple lesson, permeates the whole government. I find it surprising that our political leaders, some of whom have come through the same organizations that I've come through, can't forget this lesson. Next, I want to talk a bit about what the SPP stands for. Many of the residents have come up to me to ask, so what's so special about SPP? What does SPP have to offer? I believe it's a very simple principle. The SPP listens to you, takes your feedback, consults you, iterates with you, and comes out with proposals that make sense. That's all. Very simple. At the start of this journey, the SPP put out a manifesto and 6 key areas we will be discussing in these elections. We put it on our website and we sent emails out to friends, to contacts, and to the press, even to the other alternative parties, even to the ruling party. We solicited feedback, we got many ideas, and we put them together. I would just like to share with you 2 of these ideas that have come out from this process. The first relates to the income disparity. Many of us, even the PMETs, we're concerned about the widening income gap between those who have and those who don't. And our ministers' salaries are just an indication of this income disparity. Because our ministers' salaries are pegged to the very top tier, the handful of people in Singapore. So how do we narrow this gap? How do we make our economy more equitable? Together with the public, we have come up with one idea. And I'll explain the idea in the context of public transport. What's our economic landscape today? We have many large government-linked companies, many large MNCs. What's the situation? Take a look at our public transport. We have two big companies, SMRT and SPS. You can't call them even a duopoly. They are effective monopolies because they do not compete on the same routes. They are private companies linked to Temasek somehow. But what's the outcome? What's the reality today? Multi-million-dollar salaries for the CEOs. Just 2 days ago, SMRT announced $161 million profit. This money is concentrated in the hands of very few people. The rewards of our economic growth is not shared with the people on the ground. So, what can we do about this situation? We believe there are two things you can do. The first, deregulate public transport. Allow common Singaporeans to be owner-operators of public transport in Singapore. Allow small owner-operators to ply direct routes between housing estates and workplaces. This has been proven to work in many cities in the world, Hong Kong being one of them. When you allow many people, thousands of people, owner-operators, to be entrepreneurs, to make profits, to provide a service, to earn money from our public transport landscape, you allow the profits in public transport to go to many people. The trickle-down effects will be broad-based. The money will not go to some offshore investment account or some opaque sovereign wealth fund like Temasek. The money that these people earn will go towards the coffee that your owner-operator drinks in a coffee shop, the occasional restaurant meal he has with his wife and his children, the occasional movie that he goes to watch. That's what we mean by broad-based growth and redistribution of income. We also know that public transport has this notion called economies of scale. Your trains, your mainline buses need to be run by a large company because there are economies of scale. So what do? Do we turn these companies into monopolies that profit private individuals? No. We in the SPP believe that public transport, the mainline public transport options should be run as a cooperative, where surpluses are channeled back to help the needy and the poor. More discounts for the elderly. more discounts for the young. This is our dream. It's not just for public transport, for the whole economy. We want to democratize the economy. Let small players, let individuals, let many people have a piece of this economy. Next, I want to cover another suggestion that has come through. This one relates to foreign talent. Hold on. Let me finish. Now, our government has made the argument that we need foreign talent to help Singapore grow. We need foreign talent to create jobs for Singaporeans. Now, I've studied, I've worked in different parts of the world. And some countries are more open, some countries are more closed. But Singapore is very, very open. Yes, we do recognize that our companies need talent. But where is the balance? Surely it cannot be that Singapore has no talent. Those of us, PMETs, who have been looking for jobs for months, only to see a new expat just waltz into that plum job that we've been looking for. I'm sure many of you have shared this experience. I too was in a job search last year. So I know exactly how you feel. So how do we solve this situation? Through consultation, through discussion, we believe that Singapore should be open, but less open. And how? How do we make it more balanced? How do we make the import of foreign talent more balanced? We believe that we should adopt a system where companies, the onus is on companies to justify that they need to hire foreign talent. What do we mean by the company needs to justify? The company needs first to show that they have made all the requisite advertisements, engaged all the right headhunting agencies, interviewed all the Singaporeans who applied for the jobs, and yet still cannot find a Singaporean who can fill the job. Yes, this will require some administration. Every job application needs to be done. Every foreign talent import needs to be done on a case-by-case basis. But we believe this is what is needed to protect Singaporeans, to make Singapore for Singaporeans. So I've given you an idea of the kind of ideas that have come out of our consultation process. Very head stuff, like my colleague Benjamin has said. Now I want to move into more hard stuff. In our many walkabouts, residents have come up to us to ask, so what can SPP do for us? What can SPP do for us in Bishan-Toa? Echoing the government's refrain, the PAB's refrain, what is SPP's 5-year plan? The SPP does not believe in a 5-year plan cooked up 3 weeks before an election. What can the SPP promise you? SPP can promise you that we will fight for the budget. We will listen to you. We will consult you. And we will implement plans that make sense to you. I will give you a few examples. We went walking in Bishan Street 13. An elderly gentleman comes up to us and says, they're taking away my void deck. So I ask, what do you mean by that? Oh, they're turning it into a private childcare center. On the surface, seems to make sense. We have we need more babies. We need to provide childcare services. But then again, you think about it. Sit back and think. Childcare center can be built anywhere. Can be built in the nearby shop areas. But you take it, you put it in the void deck. What does it mean? This elderly gentleman tells us that he and all his friends have been meeting there on a every evening for the last 10 years. They have strong bonds. They have developed social cohesion in that precinct. Isn't that what our housing estate should be about? Forging bonds between people. Between another new park, a few more trees, and a more sensible space for people to live, to work, to play, which would you choose? We went talking to residents from Street 23. 2 new condos coming up. Everyone's driving a car, maybe 2 cars. The street's already congested. So what makes sense for these people? Widening the roads, maybe? Cut the slip road to Jalan Pemimpin? Sounds like a good idea. Rather than building another new park somewhere, planting a few more trees, maybe that $500 million could be used to build a new road, alternative route for these drivers. And I have many more such examples. And we have not covered every precinct in Bishan-Toa, but I'm sure there will be many more such concerns. Residents in Thomson Garden, furious about having notices pasted on their gates, evicting them in favor of the North-South Expressway, privatized estates, cutting off residents' access to the main road. Many such issues. What will SPP do? SPP will take that $500 million that the PAP wants to use to give you some new park and spend it wisely, spend it sensibly, spend it on things that matter to you. I'd like to round off with this encounter I had with a JC1 girl when we were meeting the people in front of Bishan MRT. Spunky young girl comes up to me and says, "Jimmy Lee, I would like to ask you a question. If I gave you a blank piece of paper, and this is Singapore, what will you do with it?" Being the consultant, I turned the question around and threw it back at her and said, "What would you do with it?" Her answer floored me. She said, "I would cut this piece of paper into pieces, give a piece to every Singaporean, and have them come together and build something meaningful out of it." And that is what the SPP wants to do. My name is Jimmy Lee, Lee Yong Wee. I'm a candidate for Bishan-Toa. Thank you very much.